We have all been there. You're having a productive morning, feeling centered and in control. Then it happens. A single notification on your phone, a message from someone who knows exactly which buttons to push. Or perhaps it's a dismissive look from a colleague, or a stranger who shouts a senseless insult from their car window. In an instant, your peace is gone. Your heart rate spikes. Your jaw tightens. For the next 3 hours, you're no longer in the present moment. Instead, you're locked in a mental cage, replaying the argument, refining your comeback, and feeding a fire of resentment that burns only you. You feel triggered, and in that moment of reaction, you have unknowingly handed over the keys to your internal kingdom. You have given a complete stranger or a digital ghost the power to dictate your state of being. Most people live their entire lives this way, as emotional puppets. They are at the mercy of the weather of other people's moods. They believe that being strong means shouting louder or defending their honor. But the ancient masters knew a different truth. They knew that true power is not found in the force of your reaction, but in the absence of it. There is a specific state of mind where no insult can reach you and no provocation can move you. The Taoists called it the state of the empty boat. It is a psychological shift that allows you to walk through a chaotic world while remaining completely unbothered. It is the art of becoming nothing so that the arrows of the world have nowhere to land. Today, we are going to dismantle the modern obsession with taking things personally. We are going to explore why your brain is biologically wired to glitch in the face of an insult, and how a 2,500-year-old parable can give you back your emotional sovereignty. If you are ready to stop being a victim of the world's noise and start walking the path of the unbothered, then listen closely. To understand how to master the art of not reacting, we must first go beneath the surface of the skin. We must look at the mechanical architecture of your own mind and ask a difficult question. Why does a string of words, mere vibrations in the air, or flickering pixels on a screen have the power to make your blood boil? Why does your body respond to a verbal slight as if it were a physical assault? Why do you lose your sleep over the opinion of someone you don't even respect? The answer is found in what we call the Hypothetiks Glitch. You are currently navigating a high-tech, 21st century world, but you are doing so with a brain that was finalized 50,000 years ago on the ancestral savanna. We like to think of ourselves as modern, rational beings, but beneath the thin veneer of civilization, our nervous systems are still running on ancient software that hasn't had a significant update since the Stone Age. For the vast majority of human history, we did not live in anonymous cities of millions or communicate across global networks. We lived in tiny, nomadic tribes of 30 to 50 people. In that environment, there was no such thing as privacy or independence. Your standing within that small group was your only insurance policy against death. This is the birthplace of the glitch. In the ancient world, if you were perceived as weak, if your reputation was tarnished, or if you were mocked by the leaders of the tribe, you faced the ultimate catastrophe, social exile. To be cast out of the tribe was a literal death sentence. It meant you would have to face the elements, the predators, and the starvation of the wilderness entirely alone. There was no starting over in a new city. There was only the cold and the dark. Because of this, your DNA remembers a terrifying equation. Disapproval equals death. Your nervous system is hardwired with a primal terror of being disrespected. When someone insults you today, your brain does not see a comment. It does not see an opinion. It triggers the ego defense mechanism. Deep within your temporal lobe sits the amygdala, a tiny, almond-shaped cluster of neurons that serves as your internal alarm system. This part of the brain is incredibly efficient, but it is also incredibly primitive. It cannot distinguish between a saber-toothed tiger lunging at your throat and a passive-aggressive remark from a coworker about your performance. To the amygdala, they are the same thing, a threat to your survival. This is the hypothetics glitch. It is the biological error of treating a social threat as a physical one. Think about what happens in your body the next time you feel triggered. It is a full-scale physiological hijack. The moment the insult is perceived, your hypothalamus sends a chemical signal to your adrenal glands. Within seconds, your body is flooded with cortisol and adrenaline. Your heart rate accelerates to pump blood to your large muscle groups, preparing you for a violent struggle. Your breath becomes shallow. Your pupils dilate to narrow your focus on the enemy, causing you to lose your peripheral vision, both literally and metaphorically. Your digestion shuts down because the body refuses to waste precious energy on processing food when it believes it is about to fight for its life. You are experiencing a full-scale fight-or-flight response to a psychological ghost. But here's the reality. You are not on the savannah. There is no tiger. There is only a person with a bad attitude and a limited perspective. The ego defense mechanism is like a confused guard dog living inside your chest. It is barking at shadows, convinced that every shadow is an assassin sent to take your life. It tells you that you must respond. It whispers that you must defend your honor. It screams that if you don't get the last word, you have somehow been diminished, weakened, or exiled from the world of the strong. It creates a narrative, a hypothetical war, where your very existence is at stake. But look at the cost of this glitch. Every time you react, every time you snap back at a stranger or spend 3 hours ruminating on a snide comment, you are burning through your most precious resource, life force. You are aging your heart and exhausting your spirit to defend a reputation that doesn't actually exist. What is a reputation, after all? It is nothing more than a collection of thoughts in other people's heads. It is a ghost. It is a projection. Yet, we have been conditioned to believe that this ghost is more important than our own peace of mind. We have become externalized. We have placed our sense of self in the hands of the crowd, and because the crowd is fickle and often cruel, we live in a state of constant, low-level anxiety, always ready to defend the perimeter of our ego. We live in a global village of 8 billion people. The person who cut you off in traffic is not a tribal elder who can exile you to the wilderness. They are a passing shadow you will never see again. The person leaving a hateful comment online is a digital phantom who has zero impact on your ability to breathe, eat, or find joy. The glitch convinces you that you are a victim. It convinces you that the world is doing something to you, but the truth is, the world is just being the world. The trigger is not the person outside. The trigger is the unexamined mechanism inside. Until you recognize this glitch, you are not a free man. You are a biological machine responding to a false alarm. You are a puppet, and your ego is the string. Anyone who knows how to insult you, anyone who knows how to trigger you, effectively owns you. They can dictate your mood, your heart rate, and your thoughts with a single sentence. To master the art of not reacting, you must first realize that the war you are fighting is an illusion. You must see the guard dog for what it is, frightened, ancient, and confused. Only then can you begin to step out of the mechanical cycle of reaction. Only then can you begin to realize that you don't need to defend the boat, because, as we will soon see, there is no one in it. The glitch is the belief that you are the target. The wisdom is the realization that there is no target to hit. The ancient solution, the parable of the empty boat. Now that we have identified the biological machinery of the hypothetics glitch, we must look for the remedy. To find it, we must travel back over 2,000 years to the heart of ancient China. We must consult the Taoist sage Chuang Tzu, a man who spent his life observing the effortless flow of the natural world and the unnecessary friction of the human ego. Chuang Tzu taught through stories that bypass the analytical mind and speak directly to the soul. And of all his teachings, none is more vital for the modern man than the parable of the empty boat. Close your eyes and visualize this scene. Imagine a man who decides to cross a wide, silent river. It is a morning of thick, silver fog, the kind of mist that makes the world feel small, intimate, and quiet. The man is rowing his small wooden boat, enjoying the rhythmic pull of the oars and the cool, damp air against his skin. There is a sense of purpose in his movement, but also a deep peace. He is alone with the water. Suddenly, out of the dense fog, he sees the dark shape of another boat. It is drifting directly into his path. At first, the man thinks nothing of it, assuming the other rower will see him and steer away. But the boat keeps coming. It is moving with the current, closing the distance between them with steady, inevitable momentum. The man begins to feel the first sparks of irritation. He stops rowing and shouts into the mist, "Hey, watch where you're going! Move your boat!" There is no answer. The boat continues its collision course. The man's irritation quickly turns to a sharp, burning anger. He shouts again, his voice cracking with rage. "Are you blind? Steer away, you fool! You're going to hit me!" Still, there is no response, only the sound of the water lapping against the wood. A moment later, the other boat crashes into his side. The impact jolts him, nearly throwing him into the water. The man stands up, his face flushed, his fists clenched. He is ready to unleash a torrent of insults. He is prepared to fight, to demand an apology, to punish the person who had the audacity to be so careless, so disrespectful, and so blind. But as the two boats lock together, the man looks over the edge into the other vessel. The boat is empty. There is no one at the oars. No one was steering it. No one was ignoring him. The boat had simply broken loose from its moorings upstream and had been carried down by the wind and the current. It was a victim of the same elements that the man himself was navigating. In that heartbeat, something miraculous happens. The man's rage, the fire that was consuming his chest just a second ago, simply evaporates. It doesn't just cool down, it ceases to exist. He doesn't scream at the empty wood. He doesn't demand an apology from the wind. He doesn't feel disrespected or marginalized by a piece of drifting timber. He simply reaches out his hand, pushes the empty boat away, and continues rowing his own path. This is the secret of the empty boat. But to truly understand its power, we must look deeper at why the anger disappeared. Why was the man willing to kill the occupant of the boat one moment, but felt perfectly calm the next? The physical reality had not changed. His boat was still hit. His journey was still interrupted. His safety was still momentarily threatened. The only thing that changed was the man's perception of intent. The human ego is addicted to the concept of the other. It is designed to look for a target. When we perceive that an action was directed at us by a conscious self, our ego interprets it as a challenge. It interprets it as an act of malice. It transforms a simple event, a collision, into a personal war. If a branch falls from a tree and hits you on the shoulder while you're walking in the forest, you might feel pain, but you do not feel offended. You do not turn around and scream at the tree. You do not spend the next 3 days telling your friends about how the oak tree disrespected you. You recognize that the tree is just a tree, the wind is just the wind, and gravity is just gravity. They are forces of nature devoid of intent. But if a person walks past you and bumps into your shoulder with the exact same amount of force, your reaction is entirely different. You immediately look for a self behind the action. You ask, did they do that on purpose? Why didn't they apologize? Do they think I'm a nobody? The pain of the bump is 10%. The pain of the insult is 90%. Chuang Tzu is telling us that the secret to a life of total emotional sovereignty is to realize that every boat is empty. When someone yells at you, they are not a deliberate enemy launching a tactical strike against your soul. They are a vessel being tossed about by the currents of their own internal chaos. They are driven by the winds of their past trauma, the storms of their own insecurities, and the heavy fog of their own ignorance. They are not doing it to you. They are just doing. When you realize that the person who cut you off in traffic is an empty boat, drifting because they are late, stressed, and disconnected, you no longer feel the need to shout. When you realize that the person leaving a hateful comment is an empty boat, drifting because they are miserable and seeking a momentary distraction from their own pain, you no longer feel the need to defend yourself. The moment you stop looking for a person to blame, you stop being a victim. You realize that you have been getting angry at the weather. You have been trying to fist fight the rain. Most people spend their entire lives surrounded by people who don't actually exist. They are reacting to projections and shadows. They are standing in their boats, screaming into the fog at ghosts. But you are walking a different path. You are learning that the world is not a collection of enemies, but a collection of forces. And when a force hits you, you don't react with ego. You don't take it personally. You simply adjust your oars, push the empty boat aside, and keep moving toward your destination. Because you know the truth. The only reason you get hit is because you were in the way. And the only reason it hurts is because you believe there is someone there to hurt you. Stop taking the weather personally, the lesson of nature. To reach the level of the unbothered, we must move beyond the metaphor of the river and step into the raw, uncompromising reality of the human condition. We must learn a skill that sounds simple but is, in practice, a radical act of psychological revolution. We must learn to view the people around us not as malicious actors, but as biological storms. Imagine for a moment that you have planned a day of deep work or a long-awaited hike in the mountains. You've prepared your gear, you've set your intentions, and you are ready to begin. But as you step outside, the sky turns a bruised, heavy purple. A sudden violent thunderstorm erupts. The rain lashes against your skin, the wind threatens to knock you off your feet, and a crack of thunder shakes the very ground beneath you. Your plans are ruined. you're soaked to the bone. In that moment, what is your internal state? You might feel a flash of frustration. You might feel a sense of disappointment. You might even mutter a quiet curse at the sky. But do you feel a sense of personal betrayal? Do you look up at the clouds and scream, "How dare you do this to me? Don't you know how important my day was? Why are you targeting me?" Of course not. Even in your frustration, you recognize a fundamental truth. The storm is indifferent. It doesn't know you exist. It has no ego, no malice, and no agenda to humiliate or hinder you. The rain is simply the result of atmospheric pressure, temperature shifts, and humidity reaching a breaking point. It is a convergence of variables. It is a force of nature doing exactly what it was conditioned to do by the laws of physics. You do not take the weather personally because you know there is no self behind the clouds. Now, consider the person who insults you in a meeting. Consider the driver who screams a profanity at you in traffic. Consider the partner who uses your insecurities as a weapon during an argument. To the untrained mind, the mind still enslaved by the Hypothetiks Glitch, these are not storms. They are personal assassinations. We see a conscious self on the other side, and we assume that self has looked at us, evaluated our worth, and decided to attack. But this is the great illusion of the human ego. Just like the thunderstorm, the person lashing out at you is a convergence of variables. Every human being is a walking, breathing biological output of thousands of factors they did not choose. They are the product of their genetics, their neurochemistry, the way they were raised, the trauma they haven't healed, the amount of sleep they got last night, and the internal pressure of their own fears. When someone is rude, aggressive, or dismissive, they are not making a high-level, rational choice to hurt you. They are experiencing a high-pressure system within their own psyche. Their anger is the thunder. Their rudeness is the rain. Their toxicity is the fog. If you see a dog that has been mistreated, chained and starved its entire life, and that dog snarls at you when you walk by, do you feel disrespected? Do you think, "What a rude dog, I must defend my honor and teach him a lesson"? No. You might feel a sense of caution, or perhaps a deep sense of pity. You recognize that the snarl is not a reflection of you. It is a reflection of the dog's history. It is a biological discharge of pain and fear. Human beings are simply more complex dogs. The man who is chronically angry is in pain. He is carrying a fire inside him, and he is desperately looking for a place to dump the heat. The woman who is constantly seeking to belittle others is drowning in a sea of her own inadequacy, trying to pull others down so she can feel, for one fleeting second, like she is above water. Their behavior is an output. They are empty boats being driven by winds of trauma and currents of conditioning that they don't even know exist. Stop taking the weather personally. When you begin to see people as forces of nature, your relationship with the world shifts from victim to observer. You realize that you have spent your entire life getting angry at the wind for blowing. You have spent your nights lying awake, ruminating on why the rain chose to fall on your head. This is the height of egoic insanity, to believe that the world's chaos is a commentary on your value. Think of the mountain. A mountain does not argue with a storm. It does not try to fix the lightning or explain to the wind why it's being unfair. The mountain remains. It allows the storm to scream around its peaks. It allows the rain to lash against its cliffs. It knows that the storm is temporary, but the mountain is ancient. The mountain understands that the weather has nothing to do with the strength of the stone. Most people are not mountains. They are paper houses. Every time the wind of someone else's mood blows, the house shakes. Every time the rain of a criticism falls, the walls begin to dissolve. They live in a state of constant structural repair because they have allowed their internal stability to be dictated by the external weather. But you are learning to be the mountain. When someone treats you with disrespect, look at them through the lens of the empty boat. Do not see an enemy, see a storm. Observe the redness in their face, the tension in their voice, and the limited, frantic quality of their thoughts. Instead of asking, "Why is he doing this to me?" which is the question of the victim, ask, "What kind of internal pressure must this person be under to act this way?" By shifting to the observer role, you create a space of safety. You are no longer in the path of the lightning. You are watching it from a distance. You realize that their outburst is a symptom of their own suffering. In that realization, anger cannot survive. You might feel compassion, or you might feel a neutral indifference, but you will not feel triggered. The trigger is the belief that they have the power to define you. But how can the rain define the mountain? How can the wind define the stone? We often think that by not reacting, we are letting people get away with something. The ego whispers, "If I don't snap back, I'm being a doormat. If I don't defend myself, they win." But who is actually winning? The person who is currently being consumed by their own rage, or the person who is sitting in total, undisturbed peace? The one who reacts is the one who has lost. To react is to admit that the other person is your master, that they can reach inside your chest and pull the strings of your heart whenever they wish. To remain unbothered is the ultimate act of dominance. It is the declaration that your internal kingdom is off limits to the noise of the world. The next time the weather of the world turns against you, when the comments are nasty, the colleagues are petty, and the world is loud, take a breath. Look into the fog. See the empty boats drifting by. See the storms passing over the horizon. Smile at the rain, nod at the wind, and then keep rowing your boat, because the weather is just the weather, but your peace is your life, and you are no longer willing to trade your life for a cloud. When you realize that most people are just empty boats lost in the fog, you stop being a victim of their chaos. You become the master of your own lake. Leave a comment below. What is one empty boat situation you've been taking too personally lately? Let's discuss how to steer away. If this video helped you find a bit of calm today, please like and share it with someone who needs to hear this. Thank you for watching. Stay present and keep walking the path.